Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending the Vrakas Blum Computer Consulting monthly webinar series this month featuring Sage Paperless Office. My name is Kelly Bergman, and I'd like to quickly address just a few housekeeping items before I hand the floor over to our presenter. All attendees are in listen-only mode. As we go along, you can type your questions into the question or a chat section. We'll be reading those at the end for a Q&A session. And this is being recorded and will be posted on our website and our YouTube channel within the next couple days. With that done, it is now my pleasure to introduce Dana Halpin, Senior Consultant with Vrakas Blum. You may all remember Dana from her webinar series on Sage Intelligence, or maybe her year-end webinar, or you might just be lucky and get to know her from your support needs. But either way, Vrakas Blum is very happy to have her as part of our family. Now, before I go on, and now that we're all acquainted, I'll hand the floor over to Dana.
Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for attending, everybody. As Kelly mentioned, we are doing Paperless Office today. And the nice thing about Paperless Office is that you already own this module. If you go to your module listings, you will see it sitting right there. And if you're using it, great. I hope you can take away something you are unaware of today that you may not be utilizing. And if you're not using it, today will serve as a training session as well for setting up the module and how to get it up and running. What we're going to cover today are a few session objectives. We're going to learn how to set up Paperless Office, how to create PDF documents within Paperless, as well as how to email those documents. Many benefits of Paperless. Let's just get into it. We have the ability to efficiently email and fax documents to customers, vendors, and even employees. You will be able to reduce your paper and storage costs. You will save time locating the documents, as well as streamline your current document management process into a paperless workflow. Not to mention, you can secure documents with viewer access rights and the ability to improve turnaround time to set up forms to be electronically delivered as they are generated. So, what do you need on your workstation to be able to run and utilize Paperless Office? You have in your devices and printers on your workstation a Sage 100 PDF converter. This PDF converter is automatically installed when we install the workstation for Sage 100. It is the sole printer responsible for PDF creation from Sage 100. Before you begin setting up Paperless, make sure this printer appears in your devices and printers. If it is not there, we can help get it installed for you. You should never set this printer as your default Windows printer, and only one should show up per workstation. You should have no redirects for terminal server, and you cannot print directly to this printer. Under the Paperless Office module, there's something called the Paperless Viewer. What it is, gives you the ability to review and search and pull up any PDF document for any company, any module for a range of dates. So in this list here, you will see that I have the ability to view, move, and electronically deliver or purge a document. Over on the right, circled in red, are icons. If I were to highlight one of these documents, I can move it, I can email deliver it, or purge it. The documents that are listed here are saved in a specific PDF location that you specify. This list here can be very long. If you have multiple documents in your system for multiple years, the list can get very long and it takes time to load. You have the choice when you come in here to have the list load automatically or to appear blank, and then once you select your company, your module, and your document and your dates, you can do a search that way. If I click on a document, I can go directly there. I can also have the option to require a password to open a document. And we're going to pull this up in my system during the demo. There are 3 different levels to set up Paperless Office. In Paperless Office options, you have the system settings where you turn on and enable forms, reports, journals and registers, and period end reports. This is where you say, for this company, I want to print to Paperless these documents. Then you have the Paperless maintenance tasks. You can choose the company, choose the module, choose the document. It asks you, where do you want to store these documents, and do you want a password on them? And then finally, on the customer, vendor, and employee record, you set up specifically for the document what email address you want to use to send the form. You can use an email address perhaps on the customer, perhaps a customer contact, perhaps a salesperson. You have the choice to do all of the above, and we're going to demonstrate that shortly. Most importantly, before you can begin any type of emailing, you have to make sure your email is set up in the Library Master module, and we'll show you what that looks like. So now let's take a closer look. I'm going to pull in my Sage 100, this is version 2020, and show you how to go about setting up the module. And we're going to email some forms, reports, we're going to save to PDF, as well as journals and registers. So the first step, under Library Master Company Maintenance, and I'm just in an ABC demo company right now, you're going to go to the tab 5 email tab. This is where you set up your email settings. Now, you may need to tap into your IT department or your external IT company to get the settings, but it's pretty effortlessly set up. You can test the email here to make sure it's working. And a nice feature down here, if you check this box used as default company for server settings, if you have multiple companies within your install, it will look to this company for the email settings, and you do not have to set them up for each individual company. Once that is set up, you're ready to begin setting up Paperless Office. Under your modules menu, and it's pretty far up there, it's usually under the visual process flows if you're using the standard module listing. There's a Paperless Office module, and within that module we have the main menu, utilities, and setup. So let's go into setup. Under Paperless Office options, here we have the ability to turn on what forms, reports, journals, and registers, what type of documents we want to save and be able to email using Paperless. So as you see, I have all mine turned on. And then here's that load data on initial viewer access. A short while ago, I told you that the Paperless Office viewer can get very heavy, very loaded with maximum number of documents, and it takes time to load. So what this is saying is, if I cleared all these, when I come into that viewer, like I said, it would appear with no documents, and then once I do my search, it'll load only those documents that it finds in my search. So because I'm a demo company and I don't have a lot of data, I have it turned on where when I go into the viewer, I want all the documents to load in there. Then over here, keep only the last PDF copy. So for example, I'm going in and I'm printing a inventory evaluation report. It's 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. Then I go in at 2 o'clock on the same day and I print the same report. Do I want Paperless to save both the 1 o'clock report and the 2 o'clock report, or do I want the 2 o'clock report to write over the 1 o'clock report? Those are your options in here. Now, what I have to say about that is, usually for reports and things like that, you may just want to keep the last PDF copy. For other things like journals and registers, there may be a situation, perhaps you're going through an audit, perhaps you need to save time-sensitive data where you want to turn this off. So that's something to consider as well. So once you have the options set up, you're going to go into Journal and Register Maintenance, and you're going to set up what journals and registers you want to save, where you want to save them, and if there is a password required. So in my situation, I have the ABC company, and I have it set up to save my journals and registers for each module code. I have them set up for AP, AR, Bank Rec, GL, etc., etc. Let's just look at my GL setup here. So I'm saying for my module GL, for the ABC company, I want all documents to be saved to Paperless. And then I have to choose a Paperless directory, the PDF directory. What I recommend that you do is, before you set these things up, consider where you want these documents to be saved. In my case, I just have them saved on my C drive, but in your case, you would put them on your network. And then also think about how you want to organize the paperless folder. So here's my paperless folder. And then I have forms, journals and registers, period, and reports. This is a great way to start setting it up, and you could take it even further, for example, in journals and registers by going and separating them by module. And then you could take it even further within here if you wanted to make sure your check registers are in one folder and your AP, other types of journals are, and manual check registers are in one folder. The AP invoice registers are in one folder. It just depends how granular you'd like to get. So keep in mind that this is something that needs to be pre-planned on your network where you want to save the paperless documents. I have seen companies that put the paperless folder similar to this right underneath or in the same folder as the Mass 90 directory. And we do have some clients that actually keep it within the Mass 90 directory. Pros and cons to each, and we would love to discuss that with you if you'd like to. So in here, I have my PDF directory all set up. Now the auto create PDF is the ability to have the system ask you every time you create a paperless journal and register, it'll pop up, do you want to create the PDF? That's how I have mine set up, but some people get bothered by this because it comes up all the time and they just want to set it up to yes, which means they click print, they know it's going to paperless PDF. It's not like they're going to say, no, I don't want to create the PDF. So they just go ahead and have it created for them. So I have it set to prompt so I can show you what that looks like, or you can have it set to no, not to create the PDF at all. Do you want the document to be password protected? Once again, you can have prompt yes or no. And if I did have a password, I can put that in here. Now down here, this feature is kind of cool. You can have a prompt to have an associated PDF during the journal and register printing. And what that means is I'm going to print perhaps a general journal, and maybe my CPA gave me some backup for my entries that I need to attach as paperwork, as an audit trail. So we can have the system prompt to ask you, do you have an associated PDF, which really just means do you have another document you want to attach to the journal or register? And then it's going to need to know where the associated PDF directory is located. So that is the path right here. And I'm having the system prompt me every time I print a journal or register. So mine's set up for GL all documents, but if you were to set up something new, you can actually come in here and pick the document that you want to save to paperless. So perhaps you don't really use budgets, you don't really use reoccurring journals, you only really use general journals. You can, just go ahead and create the paperless setup for that particular document. Now, if you notice, I have all these settings for my ABC company, but then I also have a setting for all companies, all modules. So how does the system know the hierarchy of what to use, what setting to use when it's printing paperless? Because this list can get pretty heavy. You can have multiple companies in here, multiple documents in here. So there is an actual document that we share with people, and it is a listing of the hierarchy that the system uses. So for example, if there is, the first hierarchy is if there's a company specified, a module specified, and a document specified, by all means, that's the first hierarchy and that's the setting it'll use. And then it goes down the list. You have a company, you have a module with all documents. Second, you have a company, but it doesn't matter what module and it doesn't matter what document. That's the third hierarchy. And then the last three are just for all companies. And then whether or not you specify the module or the document is where the hierarchy comes in for that. So keep that in mind when you're setting this up of the different hierarchies it looks at. If you want to get very specific with the company, the module, and the document, that is the highest hierarchy that'll be used. Next, let's go into period end reports. And all we're saying in here is, do you want to have any period end reports saved to Paperless? You put in the path that you want to save it to, and I do have one set up for period end. Do you want to create the PDF automatically? Yes, no, or prompt. Mine's prompt as well. And that's it. You could have a password as well. So you can get granular and do all the different module codes, but mine is just set for all modules since it's a test system. But certainly you can have period end reports for AP, AR, GL, and all the way down the line, and those could be saved in separate folders. When it comes to reports, you can save paperless for all modules, all documents for your reports, which mine is set up as, which is very general. But for you guys, you may want to set up, specific modules like bank rec, and I want to do the bank rec recap report, or perhaps all documents. And then once again, you set up your PDF directory, whether it's password protected, etc., etc. Forms maintenance. If you want the ability to email forms, this is where you set it up. For my system, I have the ABC company for all modules, all documents set up. This is how I'm going to use electronic delivery. I'm going to use this email address for my from. My PDF file name can either be the document number or the full description. So what is the full description? It is perhaps the, like for an invoice, for example, it'll put in the customer number, the invoice date, all that information into the file name for full description. It's a pretty long file name, so keep that in mind. For my purposes, I like to use the document number. So that would just be like the invoice number, the PO number .pdf. That's how it would be named. And then once again, you have to choose the directory where you're going to save the forms, and you can get more detailed than mine, of course. You can have paperless/forms/GL/ or actually not GL/ sales order/invoice, and another folder for orders, and another folder for RMAs. You can get as detailed as you want to help people find things more quickly. And then once again, when you're creating these forms and emailing them, do you want to only keep the last copy? That's an option you can turn on as well. On the additional tab, in particular for AP checks and electronic payment, we have the ability to deliver that form during the check register update. Now, if you choose only electronic payment remittance advices, this will email only those ACH payments. If you say yes, this will email not only the ACH payments, but also a copy of the check. And I believe it does combine, if you choose yes, I believe it does combine in one PDF, the electronic payment and the regular check. So perhaps, for example, for some reason you have a vendor that some of the invoices are paid by ACH and some of them are paid by regular check. Not a common situation, but if it is, you would get one PDF with all that information. This is one of the main reasons why people like to turn on ACH, is because you can alert your vendor right away what you've paid them electronically. And if you don't have ACH set up, that's another feature within Sage 100 that you already own. And we can help you set that up with your bank. It's becoming more and more popular lately. We've been getting a lot of requests to help set that up. So a watermark for the check you can put in here, like non-negotiable. And then for payroll checks and direct deposit stubs, if you have the payroll module active and installed, once again, do you want to deliver the checks or direct deposits via email during the check register update? If there is no email address on the employee record, do you want to physically print the stubs? And then do you want a default password to be used? When you email a direct deposit, for example, the email is going to go to the employee, and you would most likely want a password set up on that document. So you can have it be the social security number, or the system can randomly generate a case-sensitive password between, I think, 6 and 10 characters with one number and at least one character that it'll randomly generate for you for opening up that document. So great security on those types of things. And then once again, you can have a watermark. Now, I have my email set up once for all documents, but in your case, you have perhaps many different people that are responsible for many different modules. You can have the form set up for AR and sales order and have that go to your AR manager, or not go to, but the emails from your AR manager. And then you can have another form maintenance set up for AP and PO and have those emails come from the purchasing manager or the AP manager. This is another reason to know what type of hierarchy the system uses for that list that I presented to you about the different hierarchy for the company code module and documents. If you have many set up in here, you're going to need to know how the system uses and what hierarchy it uses to email those documents. Oh, here's a nice feature. If I wanted to copy from another setting, I can do that, which would save some time if you did want to create multiple form setups. So next we're going to go into the actual vendor and customer to show you how to set up Paperless Office on that end. As of now, we have set up Paperless Office for our company, but in order to be able to use the email feature, we need to set it up on the vendors, customers, or employees. If I go into Accounts Receivable, Customer Maintenance, and I pull up a customer, all the way on the right under the More button is the paperless delivery options. When you are printing a form, the system looks directly to this setting to find out what your paperless office delivery options are. For the accounts receivable and sales order module for a customer, you can email an AR invoice, AR statement, an RMA, a sales order, or a sales order invoice. I have one already set up for a sales order invoice. Under the main tab, you have the ability to turn on PDF delivery options, and these boxes are meant to turn on your print function. Well, the system will automatically create the PDF, but if you check this print box, it'll also give you a physical hard copy. It will turn on the email feature if you want to email these particular sales order invoices, and the fax if you want to fax them. If there's a password required for that customer when they open up the document, you can put that in here as well. Under tab 2, this is how you tell the system what email addresses to use every time you email a sales order invoice. For the sales order, there's an email address in data entry. If you click this box here, the system will use that email address to email the sales order invoice. The next one is to use the customer email address. So if I move this over here, you will see in customer maintenance, I have my Vrakas email set up here, and I have it checked that I want the invoice to go to that email address. In addition, you can add in contacts. So if you are keeping contacts in the system and you have a multiple list of them, you can choose a particular contact to be able to CC on the invoice. So if I wanted to CC Artie or John, I can do that. Then, in addition, you can come down here and add in additional email addresses. And you have the choice to put that email address in the to, the CC or the BCC area. So if I were to email an invoice to ABF, it will go to my Vrakas email, my TWCNY email, and if I had salesperson maintenance set up to email invoices, it will go to that salesperson. So what do I mean by that? I have Jim set up as my salesperson here. If I go into Jim's record, there's going to be a paperless button. And you have these cool features where you can turn on electronic delivery for a salesperson. Anytime the customer has Jim associated with it, Jim's going to get a copy of the invoice. So the email box has to be checked. And then once again, you can make him under the to or the CC or invisible on that email. And then most importantly, you have to have a email address associated with it. So if I were to email an invoice to customer ABF, we're going to have an email with 3 email addresses. The one on the customer contact, the additional one that I set up in Paperless over here, down here, and then my salesperson. Similarly, let's go into accounts payable. Under accounts payable, vendor maintenance, over on the right, there's paperless delivery options again. Here's our choices. We can do checks, purchase orders, or return orders. I already have one set up for a purchase order. Same type of options here as you saw for a customer. On the email tab, this time I'm going to use the email address in data entry. So we're going to demonstrate both so you can see how that works. It has the option to pull in your vendor contacts and additional email addresses as well. So that's all well and good. Everybody is set up to receive emails, but what do the emails look like when they are delivered? Let's go in and look at that. Under the Paperless Office module, we have what we call electronic delivery message maintenance. This is where we set up look and feel of the email for the document. So under my document type, if I were to choose customer forms for a particular company, for a particular module, for a particular document, I can set up the email template of how I want it to look. So I believe I have this already set up for in my particular case, I'm doing the same template for all companies, but in your case, you most likely will have separate templates for separate companies. So for my sales order invoice, my subject is saying attached is the document for the bill to name dated the document date. These are merged fields. Merged fields are over here on the right. It gives you a drop-down list. They have recently increased the number of merged fields that you can choose from in here. So how do I get a merged field into my template? I choose what I want it to be, customer number perhaps. I click on this copy merge field to a clipboard, and then I go into the template and I paste it. And it'll put it into my template with brackets around it. And the customer number will dynamically change based on the document that you're emailing by using a merged field, which is super nice. In the body of my email, I have dear customer name, attached, please find your invoice type. I put invoice type in there because perhaps it's an invoice, perhaps it's a debit memo, perhaps it's a credit memo. And then the document number, dated, document date. Please contact us at, or you could say email us really, at and with the email address if you have any questions, etc., etc. So there's all these different icons in here to change and make this easy for you to customize and make it aesthetically pleasing to look at. We have our, bold, italicized, underline, all these different cool fonts that you can use. We have the size of the font. We have our cut, paste, copy. They also have these cool bullet lists that you can put in there. When you send an invoice or a purchase order, maybe there's a set number of instructions you want to give them. When you receive this invoice, can you do this, this, and this? And this is just a nice way to lay that out. They have indentations in here, shortcuts. They have the undo, redo that you're used to seeing in Windows. And then links. So how did I get my email address in here as a blue hyperlink? To do that, you click the Insert Edit Link. It's asking for a URL, but all you have to do is type in the email address and it'll recognize that it's an email address. And then if I say OK, it'll say, it looks like you entered an email address. Do you want to add it in? I'll say OK. And then it comes in here and it puts in the email address as a hyperlink. The customer gets the email. wants to email me back, doesn't have to type anything in. They just click on the hyperlink and it opens up a new email in Outlook or whatever their email provider is. In addition, you can you can add in logos. To do that, you go to this Insert Edit Image, and you have to find your path to the image. And let's go back in here. I have some images in here for the ABC company. This one here, abc.jpg. All you do is you copy the path and you put it in here. And then you put abc.jpg. You could adjust the dimensions and so forth, but let's just see what it looks like. It brings it in pretty large. So you would adjust the size, and you can put this in at the bottom of the email and so forth to make it look pretty. Caution about using images. The email templates use a specified number of HTML characters, and images take up a lot of those characters. So if you're adding an image and it's not accepting the template, it says you've maxed out. Most likely it's because you have the logo in there. So you can either clean it up and not put so much information in your text to use your image, or you can just delete the image altogether. But there is a limitation on there for the number of characters. A lot of people think that inserting a logo doesn't have anything to do with characters, but it does. So here's an example of a customer template. Let's go in and show you my purchase order one. Similar, I have a hyperlink for my email address. On this one, I did put the logo in there and just a little different wording. Please see attached from, and then the company name. A lot of people think that when you choose company name, it's the vendor's company name, but it's not. It is your company. So when you click on these merged fields, go all the way down the list, because we would choose the vendor name for the vendor, not the company name. So we did make that mistake once when we were practicing with this. We had all these templates set up with company name, thinking it was the vendor name, but it was it was addressing everything to us. Trial and error. Send these templates out to yourself at first to make sure everything looks good before you actually go live and send out 100 emails to these vendors, and then you have some silly mistake like that on there. So we have a electronic delivery message template set up for purchase orders and sales order invoices. So let's see how that works. Under the sales order module, I'm going to go into invoice data entry. I already have a batch in here for that ABF company that I have paperless set up for. For example, here's my invoice. If I did a quick print, I have a form code called Paperless. Now, there are many different Paperless Office outputs in this list. If you like to use one all the time and you want it to retain the next time you come in, you cannot use the form code called Standard. You have to actually designate one for your form code. Most of the time, people don't use Standard anyways because they customize it and they put their logo on it and they make it their own. So it's not an issue, but I just want to bring that up because we get a lot of questions about how come my Paperless Office output doesn't stay the next time I go in, and that would be the reason why. This is the same window that you're always used to seeing, except you have this extra Paperless Office output option. You can print, electronically deliver, do everything, physically print, PDF, and electronically deliver. And a lot of questions come in, well, what exactly does all these options mean? And there actually is a document out there that explains all this, and I'm going to pull it over so you can see. These are the descriptions of what all those options mean. If you wanted to print all, that means everything's going to be printed hard copy, no PDF, no emailing. The second one, only emailing. The third one, print PDF for print delivery option. That is only going to be PDF. The fourth option, print PDF all and electronically delivered. You not only get a hard copy, you get a PDF and you're emailing. And then this one is the most popular, print PDF or electronically deliver. That is going to give you a PDF and electronically deliver the invoice. And then we have print PDF all, that will physically print and do the PDF, or perhaps you just want a PDF the invoices and not email them out. So one thing I want to mention is if you choose to, you can just PDF these invoices, which will save them in your Paperless Office location, which will also make them viewable in the Paperless Office viewer, which will also make it your ability to email those documents right from the Paperless Office viewer. And I'll demonstrate that because sometimes people like control over what's being emailed. So there's an option not to email it right from here. You can email it from the Paperless Office viewer. So I have mine set up to PDF it and electronically deliver. Now, what's this icon over here? What you can do is add additional attachments. Like for example, I'll just pull in this random PDF here. When the invoice is emailed, it's going to have this PDF attached to it as well. Perhaps you had drawings, or perhaps you had certain specifications, a purchase order, or something you wanted to attach to this invoice. You certainly can do that here. Once I click OK, that setting is saved, and all I have to do is click Print here. I don't have to change the printer to be Adobe PDF or anything like that. When people first get started with this, they're always like, oh, I probably have to choose that. But you don't, because you have everything set up properly in the Paperless Office module, and it'll know to PDF everything. So once I click Print, you're going to see the system go out there and check your email setup. It's connecting to my Office 365, and it's processing my email. It should do 3 different email addresses. So it says here they attempted to email 3 different people, and 3 were successful, which is great. So if I click OK, you get this message here, but that's just a Sage message. I'll say OK, and I'm done. So I'm going to go check my email here and show you what it looks like. So here's what we just emailed. I have my email template, which looks nice, and my invoice. Remember, I have it saved to the document being the actual name of the document. So it is the invoice number, IN PDF, and then my associated PDF that I attached to that, which doesn't have anything to do with the invoice, but I just wanted to show you what that looks like. So we have on this email, it's going to the customer's email address, then it's going to the salesperson, which is this DH@source1 email, and then it's going to this other email address that I had in the additional section. Great way to alert a lot of people at once that an invoice is going out to your customer. Now, if I come over here to the Paperless Office module, and I go into the main menu, Customer Viewer, you'll see my invoices in here, and I can actually go in and drill down on it, email it from here, I can open up the associated PDF directory if one does exist. I can move it to a different location. And when you're in here, it's going to list all this information. So if you wanted to find out when the PDF was created, what the source was, whether or not it was updated or not, this one in particular that we did together was not updated. The PDF location, so if I were to come into my PDF directory here, my paperless directory, under Forms, today's the 28th at 1:41 or 12:41 for you guys, you'll see the document was created here. It'll tell you if it was emailed or not, so it says yes for being sent. And like I said before, if you didn't want to email it right from the sales order module, you can always come in here and email it from here. Now let's go into purchase order. And if I pull in a purchase order for my vendor, Alex, the email address in data entry is what I have it set up to use to email this document. So if I do a quick print, you will see that I have the ability to choose a form code. In this case, I have standard, which is fine. I'm just going to change the paperless output. I don't care if it retains because this is just for demo purposes, but I do have those same options in here. We're going to choose print PDF or electronically deliver. I have the same icon in here, and it knows that it's going to use the data entry email address. I can attach documents like I did with the invoice. And then if I say print, it's going to email this out to my Vrakas email. So same method, just for a purchase order. In this case, I have my logo down here, so you can see how that comes over, and the actual PDF here attached. So in Paperless, there are various different viewers. We have the customer one, which we are in, the vendor one, which is in here, and we could look at the particular ones I have. These are different purchase orders that I have emailed. Same options on the right. You know, like I said, this list can get pretty long, so maybe you want to do a search. But in any case, you can view it, email it, move it, delete it, and do all that good stuff. Let's talk about journals and registers. So we have it set up to print journals and registers under the General Ledger module. So let's do one real quick. Once I click the print register or journal, the system knows that it's set up for paperless. So once again, you do not have to choose a PDF output here. If I click print, it also will know if you wanted the option to attach an associated PDF. So if I click out here and I pull in, I guess we'll just pull in this one and say, okay, it's going to go out there, print the document to PDF. It'll open the document for you so you can look at it as well. So you have the option to look at it before you update it. So if I update this, now I can go into Paperless under Journal and Register Viewer, and you will see my journal entry with my associated PDF location. So when I highlight the document here, same type of options on the right, but you will see another one called Open Associated PDF. And it pulls in document that I attached to the journal and register. Just happens to be another journal entry, but I think you could see the point. So journals and registers, that is how that works. Let's talk about reports. Perhaps there are certain reports that you like to keep track of and keep in paperless. We'll just do an inventory evaluation report as an example. When you want to print a report to paperless, this is the only time where you have to come into your output options in here. And at the very bottom, there's something called Paperless Office. So if you click this, this report will go into the PDF storage that you have set up for reports. It'll come here and it'll ask you, do you want to store the PDF? That's automatically checked, but you also have the ability to email it as well to somebody or to yourself. So if I click proceed, it goes ahead and it's printing the report to paperless. And then in the report viewer, you can view that report, you can email it, you can delete it, you can move it, and all that good stuff. Same thing with period end. When you print period end reports, they specifically will go into this period end report viewer to be able to be moved, emailed, viewed as well. Now, when it comes to payroll being installed, you're going to look at the employee viewer and remember that you can attach those passwords as well. When you come into a viewer that has a lot of documents in it, we often see older documents the PDF location will appear in red. This means that the path is broken. So sometimes when you do an upgrade or you move to another server, the PDF location isn't properly moved over. And in that case, you will know that because the PDF location will be in red and you wouldn't be able to click on it because it's no longer in that location or no longer accessible. So just to note, if you do plan on upgrading or moving servers and you do have Paperless Office turned on and you have us help you, we will certainly look at your Paperless Office location and do a migration from one PDF storage location to another. Perhaps it's on another server and so forth. So I think we covered pretty much everything in relation to paperless. I will open it up to any questions now to see if anybody would like to ask anything specific about what we discussed today.
How about, can I set up multiple contacts to send purchase orders to, like you can when you send an invoice?
So under the vendor setup, you do have the ability to add in any vendor contacts to that email of that purchase order. The answer is yes.
We have a client saying that she does not have that option. Is this a version specific?
I do know that they have added a bunch of new options for paperless in the recent updates. Let's talk offline about what version you have, because it's most likely that. And I think that salesperson, being able to email and copy a salesperson is pretty new as well. So if you're on a slightly older version, you may not see that option.
Anybody else have any questions? And always feel free to contact Dana directly or myself, Kelly Bergman here. We can always get you more information after the webinar as well. And if that is everything, we're going to go ahead and thank Dana for her time today. Thanks so much, Dana. What a great way to spend an hour. And I learned so much I didn't know. And as always, Vrakas Blum Computer Consulting would like to thank the attendees for taking time out of their day to join our monthly webinar series. We know your time is valuable, and in closing, should you have any questions, please reach out and we're always happy to help.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Dana. Have a great day, everybody.